Hello, and welcome back for episode 12 of the Delve podcast. I'm Adam, the executive and clinical director at Delve, and I don't have my colleague and co-host with me, Ali, today, but I will introduce somebody else in just a moment. I will do my very best with the hosting duties, but we will certainly miss Ali on today's episode. I'm so glad she's taking a short vacation. At Delve Psychotherapy of Chicago, we offer individual, couples, group, and family therapy. If you want to check out any of these services or anything else that we do, you're welcome to check out our website at delvepsych.com. That's DELVEPSYCH.com, delvepsych.com. And also, I would highly encourage everyone to take a look at some of the Substack articles that we're posting over at delvepsych.substack.com. We're putting a lot of effort and energy into those, and I think they're pretty good. So working with me today is one of my best friends, a colleague with me at Delve, and one of the best therapists I know. Andrea Bink is a clinical psychologist at Delve Psychotherapy of Chicago. We were in the same graduate school class at Illinois Tech, and I think we've really grown professionally and as friends in this discipline, often through talking a lot about how does this field work and what the hell are we doing? So thank you so much for agreeing to do this with me, Andrea.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me. And thanks for the compliment.
You got it. Yeah, well, compliments you earned them. How's that? So Andrea, one of the things that I've been thinking about lately, and I've been wanting to get your take on, because I know you have thoughts on it, is how you kind of think about the state of psychotherapists themselves these days. More specifically, how are therapists doing? How are they doing at their job, but also how are they dealing with the pressures around them? I think the public would be interested in knowing this, because it's sort of like a window into how's your therapist doing, and how are they dealing with the pressures that surround them such that they can then show up for you?
Yeah, I think the therapists that, well, I mean, for me personally, yeah, I think I'm doing okay. There are some days that are better than others, and I think that
Same.
Yeah, it's hard. It's that kind of work where you're showing up for other people and oftentimes have your own things going on, and particularly, with things that are going on locally and in, our communities. I think it can be really challenging, especially when clients bring up those things and want to talk about them in session. I think that therapists are having a hard time with that sometimes. And I think, we've been through these times before where, we just went through a global pandemic where it was really tough on everybody. And, and showing up for clients in that was, probably really rewarding, but also really difficult. And so, I don't know, I think from what I've seen, I think therapists are doing pretty well. And I think they're doing a good job and trying to support people. I wish that therapists would talk more with each other about how they're doing. And yeah, I mean, there are, we do a lot of consultation at Delve, and I think that that's really helpful. We talk about, I don't know, it's about pressures and things that, happen in the profession and in our communities and things. But, I wish there was a wider conversation.
What would you imagine that looking like, that idea of kind of talking more as a community or in smaller spaces?
Yeah, I mean, there's consultation groups, and there's definitely, people write about, there can be kind of, I don't know if there's a Reddit page for people or Reddit for people who are in there, who are therapists who are struggling with some aspects of the work, or just in their own lives and careers. But, I think that, yeah, I think consultation is really important. And I think having consultation groups are probably one of the most important things that therapists can do.
I wonder if you think there's any parallel between what it takes to show up for clients and be effective while one is dealing with stuff themselves, and what it is that we're actually asking the clients to do in their own lives, respective to dealing with their own pressures and stressors.
If there's any relation between the two.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think if I'm answering your question correctly, I think that there's some elements of, how do I deal with my own stress and pressures in my life, and how can that relate to how I talk to my clients about how they can relieve, deal with their stressors and pressures in their lives. I think it helps that we live full lives and have all these experiences, because then we can be more relatable. Like if I was, if I acted like I was impervious to stress, I don't think that I'd be very relatable, or that people would really want to listen to what I have to say. I often tell, it's like one of the things that I tell my clients is when I talk about stress, I always say like, let me give you an example from my life, and I'll say something like what I say to people is, I have a morning routine, and I know when that I'm a little off, or that I need to pay attention when my morning routine gets completely thrown off, or when I miss a step, or when I forget if I did something. And then I just have to take a pause and say, oh, wait, something's going on in my life. Is it stress? Am I thinking about something? Am I excited about something? Like, what's happening right now? And so I think, dealing with the stressors in our own life can kind of help people, and talking about that can help other people, I don't know.
And that really kind of starts with, I think, the noticing element of it, which I guess one thing that I know about your work is that you tend to be a little more act focused than I do. I don't know if we want to say for the layperson what that might mean and how that shows up in your work.
Yeah. It's interesting. I would say that I do have an ACT focus, which is acceptance and commitment therapy, which is a subset of CBT. It's a little bit different than straight CBT, and it one of the main elements of ACT is mindfulness and being aware of really your present moment, what's happening to you in the moment. And so being conscious of what you're doing, when you're doing it. And that's one of the elements of ACT. And then kind of accepting, there's a level of acceptance, which is an unfortunate word because it doesn't mean, it means like it means just that, like really understanding where you are and what's going on for you in the moment.
It could seem like it means that you're almost condoning what's happening, or something.
Oh well, I have to give up. Yeah.
Right. I'm gonna throw your hands in.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious with this idea of awareness. I need to notice the present moment more. I need to notice what's happening more. How the hell do I do that?
Right. I think it's a huge challenge for people, because we live in the past and we also live in the future, and we rarely ever live right where we're at. We're thinking about what happened yesterday, or what's going to happen tomorrow.
Well, what's funny, and something that I've been kind of on a little bit of a kick lately is like all of my memories. So my entire experience of the past is in my head right now.
Right.
I'm processing that right now. So that's in the present moment. And then all of my hopes and dreams and cogitations and worries and fears, that's in my head right now.
Yeah.
So there is only the present moment. The past and the future really kind of don't exist.
They don't exist, but they do exist in your head, and they're worth paying attention to.
Right.
But we don't need to live there,
Right.
So if I'm constantly, ruminating about my past or worried about my future, then we're not living in that present moment where all of that sort of coexists at the same time.
In all the hours we've talked about therapy, I don't think I've asked you about this before, but when is it valuable to live in the past, and when is it valuable to start thinking about the future?
Well, yeah, I think if you're facing a situation that you faced before or something similar, you want to learn from your past and take notes from past experiences to help inform what you're doing in the moment. And then we need to plan for the future. Obviously, you know, we can't just be, you know, never think about the future, but you have to plan for it, and you have to do what you need to do today to make sure that you're, you know, you're doing the best you can do for your future self.
Yeah. And it's somewhat paradoxical, because even that reflecting is a present moment thing, and even that planning is a present moment thing.
Yeah.
And I think it really stands out to me how much that interacting with our past or our present or our future is, at the end of the day, like an active thing that we do right now.
Yeah.
And anything that you want to come to bear in your future is dependent on your actions right now. So act right now.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I think the like, if we over rely on thinking about the past or thinking about the future and worrying about the future, you know, ruminating about the past, I think it becomes unworkable, right? If that's what we're constantly doing. And so I think in ACT, that's what they taught, you know, in ACT, a lot of what we talk about in ACT is this workable or not? Like, distraction is one thing. Like, you can distract yourself. You know, there's nothing wrong with distracting yourself as long as it's workable and not something that you're doing all day long, or, you know, constantly like distracting yourself from what you need to be doing in the moment. And what's important. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Well, and that idea of compartmentalization that we were kind of referencing a minute ago without saying the word is like, it's something that therapists do every day. We just kind of we put away our shit and we show up for yours.
Right.
And they're all useful strategies. Just try not to pick just one, you know, bounce around to quite a few of them and use them all.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. 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 And there's a lot of things that you can do. Yeah.
To manage emotions.
Right. Yeah.
Absolutely.
To get yourself into the present moment, to plan for your future, you know.
Right.
Yeah. A lot of things you can do.
Now, we picked or at least I picked those words a little bit carefully. Manage emotion.
Yeah.
I've got a little thing about talking about regulating emotion. Do you have this thing too?
What do you mean, a thing? Like
I'm persnickety about it a little bit. The idea of regulating our emotion. I don't think of us as having that much power over the emotions.
Yeah.
In that way, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we can, I don't know, can we manage emotions? We can manage ourselves in relationship to our emotions, maybe.
That's a better way to put it. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, we're really, you know, we have this emotion. What do we do with now? What do we do? Like, I have an emotion about this thing.
Yeah.
So what do I do?
Right.
Instead of
a separate thing, right? Like action being separate than emotion, being separate than thought, being separate than identity, being separate than relationship, and so on and so forth.
Yeah. So can I be anxious and still do the thing? Or do I have to become non-anxious before I go do something? Right?
Which is where maybe values-driven action comes in, right?
Of course, yeah.
Right. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think that we, you know, what really matters at the end of the day for all of us is what we do and how we want to live, and what we want to do with our lives. You know, we can feel all these feelings, but at the end, you know, when you look back on your life, it's what you've accomplished or what you've done. And it doesn't need to be anything extraordinary. It just needs to be driven by your values and how you want to live. And so it's important to, I think it's just really important for us to define our own values and then live according to those. And all of our goals, not all of our goals, but a lot of our goals, or main goals in life, we can tie them to our values. And if we do that, then we're going to end up somewhere where we want to be at the end of the day, you know.
Or at least we gave it the good old college try.
Give it a try, right?
Yeah, right. I mean, we certainly won't achieve all of our goals in life, and that's a sad thought, especially in society that tends to frame its, ideas of success around things like achievement and production and outcomes.
Right.
But I really do think about that idea of, and we've talked about on the pod before, Allie and I, that idea of like pursue more than complete.
Oh yeah, definitely.
You'll feel better. You just will feel better if you keep working towards stuff rather than trying to finish a checklist.
Yeah, because I think what happens is people get so tied to those checklists and they get so tied to that path that they're on sometimes that they don't really think about like what else they could do, or I don't know, or if they really want to be on that path,
Right, because
Yeah.
if a human is a changing entity, a mutable entity that will change over time, if you set out a path and write your little checklist, there's me adding some rhetoric there, the little checklist. But anyway, you you write your little checklist and then you pursue the path. 10 years go by and you're a different person.
Right.
Like, you've changed during that time. You've lived life during that time. You've suffered and you've succeeded and you've grown and you've changed and you've built and you've skill developed and you established new connections. Who the hell put these things on the list? That was a whole different person.
Whole different person.
And
right.
I think that's so much the value of that, reflection, especially on values, making sure that that we are still on the path that we mean to be on.
Yeah, and your values can change. They typically don't change drastically through our lives, but maybe different values become more, become prioritized differently as we move through life. So, right, reevaluating your values is even a reward, a thing that people should do over time, because you are a different person. And also, like, when people are younger, sometimes they're on a path that they didn't even put themselves on, that other people put them on. So society thinks that I should do this. My parents think I should do this. My college professor told me I should start this. And then you end up, like you said, 10 years later, a totally different person. And well, maybe you don't want to be doing that anymore.
Right. And how hard it is for us to manage things like, what's that cognitive bias when the sunk cost fallacy?
Yeah.
I've been doing it for X amount of time, so I might as well just keep doing it. Or I can't possibly have wasted all this time. Let me waste more.
Right.
It's so hard for us to interact with some of those cognitive biases and to put ourselves back on a path that we can feel good about. And to embrace the I guess the ephemerality of it, but also the mutability of it. That what you lay down as your plan right now doesn't have to be the one that you stick to.
Right.
It can change its shape, its form, and it could change its content completely, and that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree with that.
Yeah. We bring several of these principles to our work with clients, and I think we share some kind of core ideas about doing the work itself. But I am also interested in this element of training because you and I have spent so much time training the interns at our program. Quite a few of them now, 4 years of interns, 3 of them together. Man, it's such an incredible class of former students that I'm so proud of, and I know you are too. How do you view what we do? Not necessarily as compared to others, but like what do you see as some of the core principles there that I suspect I'll also agree with?
Right. As far as training goes, I think the core of it is, I think compassion and understanding, I think, is really one of the core values of what we do. I think we've been in training and we understand what it's like to be seeing clients for the first time and not really knowing what this thing called therapy is, even if you've been on the other side of it. But being in our seat is, can be really intimidating when you first start. And I think because we understand that and have that empathetic stance and that compassionate stance, that we can I think really help our students through some of the struggles that they have with, with how they want to show up as therapists. I mean, that's the other thing is like, I'm my own therapist. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm not my own therapist. I'm the type of therapist that I want to be. And I want my students to be not a therapist like me, but a therapist like they want to be,
Yeah.
so I don't try, I try to help them hone their own skill and show up the way they want to,
Yeah.
within all the ethical guidelines and all the parameters that we have around the profession. Yeah, I mean, I think there's something else I was thinking about. Yeah, I think being authentic, and showing up authentically and allowing them to show up authentically, so that if I have a student that's struggling with something, I've never had to really like draw it out of them. They come to me, like I get a ping, like I'm really struggling with this thing. And so it helps me to help them work through it. And I always tell my students, like, don't worry alone. If you are worried about something, get in touch with me because we'll work through it. And very often we do, And so I think to me, that's really important. And then professional development and all the things like early professional development is another aspect of our training that I take very seriously, because I feel like that was something missing in my training, was that it wasn't until much later that people really started talking about professional development and what kind of therapist you want to be and how you want to be within the profession. Like,
Not just how do you want to do therapy itself in the room, but now the session has ended and you're still a therapist interacting with these strictures and these organizations. Now what do you?
Yeah. Like, how do you set up your schedule? How do you manage your time? How do you manage the time in a session? Like all of these things are things that you learn along the way. But I don't think people talk so much about like managing your schedule and protecting your time and boundaried, the boundaries around how you want to kind of, like be a therapist within a 5 to 7 day work week,
Absolutely. And setting it up in a way that works for you. I know of certain therapists that would really struggle. I encourage my employees to do a 4-day work week. But I know of certain therapists who are like, I need more time. I need more days, because just sitting for that number of hours doesn't work for me. And so again, going back to kind of reflection and awareness, how am I interacting with the work? How am I interacting with the job, maybe as separate entities? And how can I use those reflections to help me construct my professional lifestyle?
Yeah. I think that's important for trainees to start to think about right away.
I wonder, because it's so easy to say, be compassionate, understanding, and empathetic. We're therapists. We should be good at those things. It's so easy to say that. Why is that harder to do? I guess maybe I don't experience it as difficult to do, but I do suspect that it may be difficult sometimes to access. And I suspect that it's hardest to access in moments when trainees are struggling. Maybe they're struggling in terms of performance.
Yeah. Right. Because at the end of the day, it's my license on the line. Right. And so it would be easy. I think it would be easy if this was not a true core value of mine. I think it would be easy to panic and maybe be defensive about the work that I do with students. But I think compassion wins every time, because one, then they'll come to you if there's a problem,
rather than hiding it from you.
So I'm really confident that my students will come to me if they have an issue. And I mean, I think, and most things can be worked out, and worked through. And I think, we've had experiences where, we've had to do some heavy lifting, and
we've had experiences.
We've had experiences, and it's. I think we've done really well. I think we've done really well, and it's, our students have done really well, and yeah.
Well, and it almost always starts with a phone call between the two of us. We pick up the phone, we talk to each other, and it's like, so I got a weird one. How do we, because it just takes a minute to sort through the nuances of these situations. And I think something that we do really well is kind of holding in mind, what does the client need? What does the practice need? What does the trainee need? What does the trainee relative to their school and their profession need?
Right.
What are the ethical standards? What are the professional standards? What are the legal standards? Like, I think you and I do a pretty good job of sorting through all those things.
I think so.
Together.
Yeah.
So I do think that that's difficult, but I also think it's made easier if we can, as often as possible, start with a phone call where we're open-minded as much as possible. My apologies for the times that I'm not, Andrea.
It's okay, me too. There are times.
And getting each other on the same page about we're in a comfortable space together. We're going to figure this out together. It's probably solvable. It's probably not that big of a thing. The moment that you realize there's a problem is the largest that problem ever looks.
Right.
And it starts to get smaller over time as you generally begin to shape it. Unless it's a real damn big problem, at which point your actions probably didn't have that much of a bearing on it anyway.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. At that point, if it's a big deal, it's a big deal. I think also, like, what you're highlighting is also what we were talking about before, is the value of consultation and having somebody else to bounce things off of and to talk through some of the difficult challenges of our work, whether it's with students or with clients, and be able to really, get a different viewpoint or confirm your view.
Right.
Yeah, it makes the work easier. I think it makes it, for me, it makes it a lot easier to do this work because I have multiple people to consult with.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think how we consult as well can be really valuable. I think another thing that we do really well is talking about, and I think the general public could use a model like this. Well, let me throw out an idea. I'm not going to be like ego attached to that idea.
Right. Yeah.
Let me throw out an idea and see how you interact with it. Or you and I did a consult recently, and we didn't actually have a chance to get on the phone. So you gave me like a quick little blurb, and I was like, my thoughts go in this direction. You're like, my thoughts are already in that direction. So it's pretty clear where we'd be going, but it's just having that little bit of a handoff for like, so this, right? And you say, yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
It's so helpful.
Yeah, I think it's really helpful. And, I think there are times when, like I don't even know what to do in this, and just kind of working through through a thought process, and, getting to a consensus is really, I don't know, it makes me less defensive in my work. And I've used that word a couple times, but it makes me a little less like worried about, what if I do something wrong, or what if this didn't go well? I can talk it through, and I can say, a little concerned about this, or
I got options.
And there's options. Yeah.
Man, I want to ask you a little bit about like just catastrophizing in general, because I think it's a thing that, clients do, we do, people do.
Yeah.
How do you tackle catastrophizing in sessions? And if you want to, how do you teach your trainees to tackle catastrophizing in session, if there's any difference?
Yeah, catastrophizing for clients, or my catastrophizing?
You tell me if you need some support here, Andrea.
Well, I think with clients, I talk about, I think what people forget mostly when they're catastrophizing is what their strengths are, and how they can, and their problem solving skills, and how they've gotten through things in the past. If you really come down to it, if you say, like, what's the worst thing that can happen? What are you worried about? Typically for my clients, it's way before, like I worry about things like kind of bigger, but sometimes it's like, okay, well, where have you ever seen this in the past? And where have you ever, in your life, where have you ever tackled something similar to this? And what did you do? And how did you get through it? And what, who did you call? And where did you get advice from? And people have answers to those things. And when you really break it down to like, to like all the things that you can do to either avoid the catastrophe, or if the catastrophe were to happen, people have a lot of strength and skills and resources. And I think when people start to understand that, they're like, oh, I guess that wouldn't be so bad if I lost my job, or it wouldn't be so bad if, I crashed my car or something, like something happened.
Well, in the day that the catastrophe happens, the dreaded thing happens, I don't know about you, but in my career experience, I've seen wildly different reactions on that day when it actually happens.
Yeah.
Sometimes people are a mess, but sometimes they're like, I think I'm okay.
Yeah.
And like, what paradoxical shit is that?
Well, because if the anticipation of something happening, the uncertainty of something happening is much worse than it actually happening. So the thing happens and you're like, no, you already know how you're going to react, because you're reacting in the moment. You're doing the, you're like, it's happening. And so I think it's easier to deal with at that point.
I'm making a little connection as we're talking about this, because so step one there is then people care more about uncertainty than they do about negative events occurring.
Probably, yeah.
At least maybe the majority of the time, or often at least. But then there's a parallel between this idea of like uncertainty is a projection into the future. I don't know what's going to happen. So I'm sitting here thinking about what's going to happen, and I'm projecting into the future, trying to interpret and build expectations. But so too is development of goals and pursuit of those goals, that kind of values driven action stuff that we were talking about before.
Right.
And it's sort of, it's a projection into the future. If I take these actions, it's likely to lead to these kinds of outcomes. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't.
Yeah.
Same with uncertainty. But there's kind of a parallel to engaging in values driven action and to just this kind of uncertainty cogitating simultaneously.
Yes. And I think uncertainty is hard because you don't have control over it.
I don't have control over uncertainty.
Right. Like I can control my goal. Like there's this, and maybe it's an illusion. It might be an illusion. I can control like what I do, like step by step to get to a goal. But losing my job, like I don't know what's going to happen until I get there. Right. And I can think about all the horrible things that will happen and all that. But I was also thinking, like, once you're in that position and you've lost your job, then your skill set comes into play.
You're back in control.
Yeah, you're back in control. But before that, like unless you have somebody like me who'll take you through, like, well, who are you going to call? What are you going to do? Like all these things, and people are like, or how bad would it be to, be off for 4 months or something? And people are like, actually, that wouldn't be bad at all, and maybe this would be fine, Yeah, like once you take somebody through that, then they're like, oh, if I lost my job, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. But once you do lose your job, then you're right there, like with me, saying, oh, wait, I have skills and I have people I'll call, and maybe it wouldn't be so bad to be off for 3 or 4 months. And then it's all back in your control, and it's more certain what you're going to do.
And you may be in a precarious situation. You may be facing negative, even terrible things and major losses. But no matter how bad it gets, no matter how, because I think like one could argue that the more privilege we have, the more protected we are against such events.
Agreed. Yeah.
So, but nevertheless, even if you don't have that privilege and are experiencing some of those major setbacks, you do still have choice at the end of the day. There is still something you can do. And I don't know for sure that it'll solve all problems.
No.
I don't know for sure that it'll solve any problems.
Right.
But I generally think that in most circumstances, outside of maybe the most extreme forms of suffering that we experience as humans ever, building toward our goals and understanding our values and taking the actions that move us in that direction is the vast majority of the time it's going to lead to a greater sense of contentment and calm and ease and equanimity.
Absolutely. Yeah. I agree with that.
Man, why do people so badly need this sense of control? Like, what's that about?
Well, it's an illusion of control. Let's just be clear, I think, mostly.
Well, there's a duality to that. So there's like, we trick ourselves into believing that we have more control than we do.
Yeah.
But we don't have none.
We don't have none. That's true. We do have control.
But often I think we believe the direction I think you were going with that was, if I believe that my actions can protect me from, let's say, getting fired from my job, sort of, but maybe, but also maybe not.
Maybe not.
And at the end, at the other end of the day, the person who actually has power over that ain't you.
Right.
Some of your actions could maybe shift the circumstance, but also a merger happens, a recession occurs, a natural disaster hits the plant. Like, there's a lot of things that we just refuse to think about or fail to think about that are influencing the situation, that are outside of our control.
Yeah.
That would absolutely have a material impact on the way in which I would experience the outcomes eventually.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think, why we don't think about those things is because if we did, we'd probably not do anything.
It's paralytic.
Yeah. I mean, how can you, if I don't have control over anything or very little, then why bother? I'll just sit and watch TV or just go to my job. And,
which some people choose, right? Like, I mean,
nothing wrong with that. Yeah.
The why try effect, right?
Yeah.
Maybe we should define that a little bit. You want to, or should I?
I don't know. How do you want to define it?
I guess you get to a place where hopelessness, I suppose, and defeat get large enough that you kind of sink into this. It's ultimately a cognitive framing. It's a thought, which is, why try to do this, that, or the other? Why try to get better? Why try to improve? Why try to work on anything? It's always going to be bad, which is an assumption.
Yeah.
But having that cognitive frame does affect deeply how people engage their own suffering, defeat, loss, and hopelessness.
Yeah. And I think that also comes into play with for people who've had series of bad experiences in life.
Yeah.
Who can't seem to catch a break. And, it feels like like things are out of control, out of their control.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and in some ways, as we mentioned, they are.
Yeah.
All right, let me jump to a completely different direction, if you are so willing.
Sure.
I think one place where people feel very out of control is in their dating and relationship experiences. And I know that you've got a lot to say on this front as well. I wonder if you have any thoughts on what has changed about the way that relationships are getting built, and maybe what's important about them today.
About relationships today?
And building relationships.
Building relationships. Do you want me to go back to started dating, or do you want to just talk about once people are coupled?
Let's go back to dating itself. I think a lot of people are trying to figure out that element of it.
Dating's tough. I mean, I think that, in this world when everybody's online dating and the online platforms are really set up for engagement and not having people like get off the platform, I think it's got to be. This has not been my experience in life, but I did online dating, but many years ago, and it wasn't quite the same. And I think people are just having a really hard time with it right now, and having a hard time finding people. A lot of my clients are like on and off. I'm on the apps again. I'm off the apps. I'm like, back and forth. And I think I don't know, maybe it's going to go back to people meeting people by, through having like in-person experiences again. Because I don't know that that's sustainable anyway for people. But I think dating is like finding somebody that shares your values and that you want to date is harder today than I think it has been in the past. Once you do find someone, I think it's easy to let them go because there's 10,000 other people on the app. There's like more choices, and so I think building relationships is not as I don't know, not as obvious that once you couple with somebody that you should just work at it and
Right.
try
Some
to
people have to
build
take some
something.
responsibility, maybe.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think dating is hard. It's always been kind of hard, and but once you find somebody that you want to stick with, then I think it takes some work. I'm not a fan of sticking with relationships that are really problematic in the beginning, but there's always going to be challenges.
Sure.
And working through those is, I don't know, it can be fun. It can be exciting.
Right. You can embrace the growth in the relationship as growth promoting for yourself, but also it can be a fun process between you and another person if you're working together to do it.
Right.
What do you see that work in relationship looking like, especially early relationship? Because I think one of the traps I see very often is people believing that it should all be, roses right from the beginning. And but then the opposite trap is, but should it be problems right from the beginning? And how do we think about when we should be putting in work and what that work should look like?
Yeah. I'll go back to shared values and a shared vision of what your life is going to look like. And we'll go to future thinking, right? Here's where future planning is really important, and understanding like what you want and what you like, what you want your life to look like moving forward. So, do you want children? Do you want to own a home? What kind of lifestyle do you want to lead? Do you want to travel? If one person doesn't want to travel, does the other person mind if you go off and travel?
Right.
and you travel, I'll stay home, and just accommodating each other's lives and kind of merging two individuals' lifestyles, existence, jobs. There's all kinds of stuff that needs to kind of work together.
Right. And expectations. I think that something I've quipped with couples clients in the past that to some degree, to come together as a partnership, if we go with just two people dating one another, is to take one person's family history and the other person's family history and throw them at each other, lock them in a room and see what happens. And what are the kind of strictures and expectations? Is one family loud? Is the other one quiet? Do we talk about it? Do we not? Do we solve problems? How do we solve problems? What do we celebrate? What do we pay attention to? How do we judge?
Right. And, the word compromise just comes to mind, right?
Right.
Compromising and connecting rather than having these things tear you apart or send you in different directions. Just how do you connect on all of these differences and I don't know, complexities.
Right. And I think about I try to convince clients of this. I think they think I'm just trying to get a rise out of them in some way or something like that. But like the moment that you have a problem with a well-meaning partner who's trying to build the same thing as you, should be an exciting moment, right? Because it's like if two people are trying to work together and you come to a moment of conflict or uncertainty, that is the moment that you get to construct actively the vision that
Absolutely.
you have together. You
Mhm.
learn more about who this other person is that you are
Mhm.
presumably trying to get closer to you.
Right.
You have the opportunity to invite them to understand you more, and
Mhm.
you have an opportunity to build practices and patterns of relating to one
Yeah.
another that can support your lives. I mean,
Mhm.
I had a former supervisor say that a lot of what needs to happen in a relationship is I need to teach you how to love me.
Yeah.
I should
Yeah.
not be walking into the relationship believing you already know how.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's so
Yeah.
unfair to you.
Yeah. 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 I think that's absolutely right. And I think it's missed that like that. I don't think a lot of people understand that. They think, right, that it should just be a given. We love each other, you know?
Right. And love's enough. But what
Yeah.
do
And
we
love's
even think
enough.
love is? You
Right.
know?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's so much more. I don't know. There's more to it than that because I think people can share. I mean, there's all kinds of, there's a lot of aspects to, like you were saying, there's a lot of aspects to relationships and how we get along and how we construct this shared life. And so it can look like anything. It doesn't have to be, there's no like right way to construct a relationship and
Mm.
a life with somebody. You know,
Right.
people have all different ways of doing that. And so if you have something about you that you want expressed, then it would be great if you could just talk to your partner about that, you know, because you don't know what their tolerances are for, you know, everything from, you know, something that you would think might be easy to talk about to something that you think would be really hard to talk about, you know? And so I think that we don't, I think couples don't talk enough about their needs because they feel that they're going to get rejected or that they'll be able to live without it or that their partner would never understand. And I
Right.
don't think that that's true all the time. Or we don't choose people who would be willing to put
Right.
up with or to support us in some of the ways that we want to be and should and could be supported in life. But
Mm.
we put aside some of those needs because I don't know, we don't wait long enough or we don't ask the right questions in the beginning or we don't really explore those things with the other person.
Right. And I would say I think well, not only do I agree with all of that, and I would
Mhm.
add that I think on the flip side, I find that people really are struggling to interact with the other person's needs
Yeah.
in a productive way.
Yeah.
And I'm
Mhm.
seeing a lot of personalizing,
Mhm.
a lot of demanding,
Yeah.
and your partner's needs are not a threat to you
No.
inherently. And I think
Right.
it's an intentional, maybe not intentional, but it is a choice, a fully intentional choice. Maybe I'm
Mhm.
rambling, but it's not it's not without choice that you end up in a position where you are bothered by the other person needing something.
Yeah.
Now, the agreement that we make around that need is
Mhm.
something that we can negotiate,
Right.
but the need itself is fine, is
Yeah.
normal, is natural
Mhm.
in the vast majority of cases.
Yeah.
And if it's something you don't believe you can compromise around or communicate about or build some process around, then sure, maybe that does mean that we're parting ways. But I find
Mhm.
people are pulling for that lever way too quickly and way too often.
Yeah. Do you think that people are threatened by other people's needs, especially if they're kind of outside the norm, like what people think is normal for a relationship?
I mean, I think they experience it as threat, but again, I think that's a choice, right? So
Mhm.
you were talking about travel.
Yeah.
So the other person travels a lot. I could
Mhm.
feel threatened by that because it means that I won't have this time with you.
Yeah.
Does it mean that? Can you go? If you can't go, is there a way to connect while they're away? Is there a way to connect more with yourself? Is there a way to
Mhm.
maximize the time that you have together when
Mhm.
you're together? All of those kind of assumptions that are getting made that aren't being discussed
Yeah.
make travel a threat when it
Mhm.
might not be.
Right. Yeah.
And maybe sometimes you go, maybe sometimes you don't,
Mhm.
but you too construct the thing, you build the thing.
Yeah.
It doesn't come with instructions, and as you indicated, there's not one way to put it together.
No.
This is a creative, collaborative process.
Right. Right.
I don't know. Does that fit with your ideal?
Yeah, because I think if you fall into this, like, I keep talking about the norm, like the normal idea of a relationship, the two people living together and constructing a life, whatever, like in a certain way. I think if you fall into that, then yeah, I think you miss out. And I love the way you put it, like like you're building this thing, and that can be a point of connection and deepening the relationship and making it stronger. And I think people are just afraid that it's going to tear it apart. But if it needs to be torn apart, then it needs to be torn apart.
Right.
I don't know. It's like why not take the risk and see it as a chance to build something.
How do you find people interacting with risk these days?
I don't know. Some people are really risky. Some people do, like they grab life by the tail and just do it,
Go. Let's go.
Yeah. But I also find with that, there's a lot of like, sometimes there's some like, there's some, I don't know, like shame and guilt sometimes, like I shouldn't have done that, or I, went too far or something like that. I think a lot of, there can be that too, where it's like, oh, I did this thing, but I feel really bad about it. It's like, well, did you have fun? Well, yeah, it's fun. Well, okay. But I think people are less risky in relationships. I think, yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say. I don't know. I think some people, I think it's across the board different for everybody, and their levels of risk and where they'll be risky.
Right. Yeah. Because we might be risky in some domains and not in others.
Yeah.
I do think that there is, I think this is well evidenced, right? That there's cognitive bias in humans around avoiding loss. Once we have something, we don't want to lose it, loss aversion, which I also think is related to that kind of sunk cost fallacy that we were already talking about. And so I suspect that when somebody has something that is more important to them, that then they feel less willing to take risks within it. I just would, well, firstly, may I check if you agree with those premises as stated?
Yeah.
And then I would say, but still some risk, right? Like still take some risks. You don't have to take no risks, and you don't have to spend all your time in ruminative fear about the loss. You could still push and try to move forward in your life.
Yeah. 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 I think people should take more risks in relationships that are connecting.
As in, like, well, how do you know?
You don't.
No, there you
are. The risk, right?
That uncertainty.
I want to bring it up. I want to bring this thing up. Well, I don't want to. No, that I'm afraid to, because my partner won't agree to it. But bring it up and see what happens.
And I'll add, I think the other thing that I'm spotting a lot, I'm getting on my soapbox about this lately, is I think way too many people are spending way too much time analyzing what their partner is thinking and doing.
Yes. Everybody. No, it's beyond relationships. It's like, it's like, what are people thinking? Yeah. What are other people thinking? Yeah.
Which I've been on a little bit of a kick. You haven't had a chance. We haven't talked about this, but I've been on a Fominaya kick lately.
Oh,
I've been trying to learn about mentalizing, self-mentalizing, all that stuff, which is all about how do I project into the mind, or how do I kind of build an internal model for another person and then imagine how it's going to act. That's mentalizing.
Yeah.
But then also, can I think of myself as an external entity, and then like, well, why do I do that? Why did I put my cell phone in the fridge? Why sometimes do I pick fights with my dad even though I know he doesn't agree with me? Like stuff like that. That's self-mentalizing. And I find people are kind of running amok with the mentalizing component of it, and like trying to build all these models, predict everybody else's behavior.
Right.
Do something. Do something.
Right.
You have you have levers you can pull here. You have
Mhm.
actions you can take here.
Yeah.
And if you mean to get closer to somebody, then do something loving, do
Yeah.
something connecting, do something
Yeah.
caring,
hmm
empathic, compassionate.
hmm Do it and see what happens.
Right.
Gather the data.
Yeah.
Did it work? Yes. Good. If it didn't work, then talk about it.
Yeah. And activate your own strengths and agency
Yeah.
and things that you've already discussed in the episode so far.
Yeah. Yeah.
Perhaps I will transition us to the quote for the day, which
Okay.
I asked you to contribute.
hmm
Your quote is, start where you are, use what you have, do what you can. What's that about?
Hmm. This quote came to me at a time when I was I was in undergrad, and I would, you know, I'd be studying for a test, and I would think, oh, I should have started a week early. If I only had read this other book, I would know more. And my thought process was a lot around what I could have done or should have done differently. And this quote showed up, and this is a quote by Arthur Ashe, famous tennis player. And that part, start where you are, really resonated with me. It's like, okay, my test is in 5 hours. I know this much. What do I need to do? And it gave me a platform rather than looking in the past and worrying about what I could have done, which was colossal waste of time. Like all that energy that I spent worrying about what I could have done, I started putting into doing and getting the work done that I needed to get done. And I think now it's a thing that runs through my head a lot, even today. It's like when I feel like, I'm never gonna, learning German, I'm never gonna get it down. I'm never, it's like, okay, you are where you are, start where you are. You don't know, you have to do the process, um, and then expanding that, use what you have and do what you can. I think that's where, this is a good place for acceptance too, right? This is what I have. This is where I'm at. This is what I have, and this is what I can do about it. And that's the acceptance of the present moment. Like, this is where this is what this looks like. And then you can move forward from there. And you're not looking backwards.
In that vein, do you find that it stops you or others from doing that kind of self-lambasting?
It stops me. I don't know what it does for other people, but man, that and self-compassion, like really, once I started a self-compassion practice, which this is part of that, is like, oh, okay. Yeah, I don't have to beat myself up over this. I can just,
Do
learn
you want to
from
talk a little bit about self-compassion, Kristen Neff
Kristen Neff.
and
Yeah.
others? Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So self-compassion, as Kristen Neff talks about it, is really 3 elements. And one of the elements, again, is mindfulness. And that's mindfulness of I'm really suffering right now, or I'm in a not so great situation. Things aren't going the way I want them to go, and acknowledging that. The other one is common humanity, which is saying that other people are suffering too. We don't all suffer in the same way, but I'm not alone. And then it's like that, what is it? Loving kindness, and just talking to yourself as you would a friend, or just giving yourself a break. I mean, I really think it's just kind of like not talking to yourself in a harsh and critical tone.
Yeah.
But just giving yourself like, okay, this is really rough. I don't like where I'm at right now. And then after all of that, but then you say, like, what do I have to do? Like, do I have to study harder? Do I have to take a break? Do I have to
Take an L.
eat
Maybe you
some,
just take a loss. Yeah.
take a loss, right? Or call my friends, or eat some ice cream, or do something. But it can be anything from like working harder to taking a break, or just like, or just letting it go.
Yeah.
But that's been really, like really important part of my not giving myself a hard time about everything.
I can really see how those shared ideas or those combined ideas can end up being really powerful, of noticing, of acceptance, but also of self-compassion, and kind of adding them all three together can be a really powerful force.
Yeah. I think they're all important. And I think as you learn them individually and then start putting them together, I'll speak for myself. As I've learned them individually and started putting them together, it's made a big difference in how I approach my life, how I approach risk, how I approach my work, how I approach any like difficulties I have or uncertainties in the future. Yeah.
It's a very grounding framework to come back to and add other thoughts on top and new situations, but it's a great place to really kind of ground yourself in. I'm going to take care of myself. I'm going to notice what's happening, and I'm going to accept the current circumstances and move forward. It's a great place to start.
Yeah, I think so.
And as a reminder, at Delve Psychotherapy of Chicago, we offer individual, couples, group, and family therapy. You can check out our website at delvepsych.com, DELVEPSYCH.com. I highly encourage you to check out our Substack. As mentioned, we are talking about some of these ideas and many others over there at the Substack, delvepsych.substack.com. And please help us spread the word with this podcast. We're not trying to be famous. We're not planning to run ads. We're just trying to add some value, be helpful, and talk about some of these things that we think could be useful to the general public or to other therapists or trainees or anyone else. So please share this with one other person that you think would enjoy it, and hopefully they'll do the same. And if not, then we'll all just keep talking to each other, I guess. Thank you so much for your time, Andrea.
Thank you, Adam.
All right, take care.
Bye.